So in today's video, we're going to be talking specifically about John Savage's Savage on Selling book and the great and fantastic lessons that I learned from reading the book, with the goal of helping you learn more about how to sell life insurance and be of service to more people who are in really desperate need of the kind of solutions that you can provide. And that training is coming up right after this. Greetings and salutations. My name is David Duford, founder of Final Expense Agent Mentor, where I help agents like you sell more final expense and insurance. And in today's video, I'm going to be specifically talking about John Savage's fantastic book called Savage on Selling. Highly recommended. And what I'm going to do today is kind of break down what I think are the big picture takeaways from this book to help you understand where Savage comes from and what he believes is most responsible for his tremendous success selling life insurance back in the day, and hopefully in order to convey to you the importance of picking up a book like this that's really going to make a difference in your selling and your connections with your clients, and ultimately you're going to sell more insurance and help more people. I can tell you the one big thing that John discusses at length about is the importance of two factors as contributing to his very successful run as a seller of life insurance. The first of which is building relationships, and the second of which is building clientele. So a little bit about Mr. Savage. If you don't know his particular strategy, he would sell essentially a concept of helping people do what's called total money management, where he would help people come in, manage their finances, not in the traditional sense, or the contemporary sense, where you actually have somebody invest mutual funds and they do all the handling for you. John never did any of that. He just sold life insurance. But part of that consultation process was to help them guide what they should do with the money that they make and how to save it, and how life insurance played an important role in that. On top of that, John would also spend a lot of time working with prominent members of the community ever before actually selling them any life insurance. He would make himself available for consultation when it came to sales training or help with a particular element involved in a business. And many times these business owners that dealt with John that hadn't bought any life insurance from them eventually would ask them, "What exactly do you do?" And would even attempt to pay him a consultation fee for the help that he provided. But John, vast majority of the time, would deny that, not want the particular consultation fee, and say, when the time comes and you're ready to buy life insurance, that's how I make my money and that's how I intend to make a living. And many times these relationships that built from his ability to help these business people out grew the opportunity for all sorts of life insurance, and he was paid well in the back end many times over than just looking for the easy sale that's available today. John also made it clear, I think, in the same breath of what I'm talking about, he's a go-giver first. He wants to help people first where they live, where they work, and then through that process of creating a relationship, develop that clientele and begin to help them with whatever their life insurance needs are. So if anything, the one thing I took from this book that I see a lot of top life insurance agents do is that they're very patient. They understand that the sales will come once you commit yourself to helping the client first. And that if you just remain patient and you have the capability to see through things, that the sales success just naturally comes. People want to do business with somebody who has a mentality of giving first and helping out, and they feel in a sense obligated to, not against their will, but because they've helped so much out in exchange for very little to nothing except the ability to grow a relationship, that they want to do business with a kind of person like that. John also made it clear that ultimately at the end of the day, people buy people, they don't buy life insurance. And it's funny, I see this all the time in my business of selling final expense. You can sit down with the client. These people don't know the companies we sell them. They don't know the product names. They don't know the history behind the company. They see these fancy brochures, or they get their policies in the mail and they stick it back in a safe, never to be looked at again until the agent asks about it and they go pull it out. People don't really care so much about the company. Sure, they do when the time comes to pay a claim, but in the process of making the sale, John's exactly right. It's you that sells the policy. It's your connection with the client. It's your trust that you've built with that person. It's the relationship that you've built that contributes to the person actually deciding whether or not they're going to actually buy. So you got to sell yourself first. It always comes back to you making the sale, whether or not you're trustworthy, whether or not what you say is believable. Do you have integrity? Are you honest? All these things are exponentially more important than is this company A or company B, and what are the particularities of the product. It just doesn't matter nearly as much. You got to sell yourself, and you got to present yourself in a fashion so people buy you first, and then next, whatever product it is that you're selling. Another thing John talks about in his insurance business is that 80% of his production comes from 20% of his clients. So what John does that's a little unique, and I think this is something he talks about in the book, he does annual reviews, or he did annual reviews with as many clients as he could get into his office within the first several months of the year, sometimes at the end of the year, depending if it was a larger entity and they had to get them in before the first of the year. But the point is that John went back to the same people he sold policies to check up on them to see how their financial planning goals were being achieved, and then to make himself available to help out whenever there were any circumstances where maybe what he does as far as life insurance goes could provide a solution. Other thing that he did is through this process of annual reviews and speaking with his clients, he would get referrals. He would have people suggest other family members or other business associates look at what John does and how helpful he is, and how maybe what John could do could help these people as well. John went on to say that the 20% that basically deliver the 80% of commission revenue, at the end of the day, he didn't know which 20% it was. It wasn't always necessarily the same 20% every year. So the important thing was to get as many people into his office as possible to do these annual reviews to find out which of the 20% was actually going to be. There's a really good quote in Savage on Selling that really stuck with me, that I thought was really indicative of the divide as it goes between agents that do and agents that don't. And as I quote here from the book, the saying is from John is, after all is said and done, more is said than done. And it's that made me chuckle when I first heard it, because as somebody who recruits agents and trains them to become successful producers, I can tell you that that's more often true than not. There's just a lot of people that say they're going to succeed, but they never actually plant the seeds of success and begin to nurture it, to grow it to the success that it will become, and take on all the risk that's associated with taking a chance on anything. And John's, exactly right. A lot of people never actually take the first initiatives to get out there and succeed or try to succeed. And it's a shame, especially in this business, where as we see more and more people in the insurance business heading to retirement, the average insurance agent is 58, 59. They're going to prepare for retirement, and there's going to be a huge opportunity, especially for us guys like myself in my 30s and 20s, to take over the reins. As in this particular mode, there's going to be really less agent competition than there ever has been before. So it's a tremendous opportunity to act, to take action, and to get out there and make a name for yourself and succeed, and not let this opportunity pass you by. So what John said is absolutely true. So be an action person. So in one of the last sections on Savage on Selling, Savage is more or less sitting down with a group of producers, of peers who are also successful or various levels of success in the life insurance business. And he's basically fielding questions from this group of people. And this is one of the most interesting chapters, because agents themselves ask directly John questions that many of us have about what it takes to succeed, and really good questions. So what I'm going to do now is kind of cover some of the questions that were covered, and then kind of give you an overview of the answers. There's a lot more than what I'm going to mention here, but this kind of gives you the value, or the picture, the quality of the kind of answers that John gives to help out people who want it. So the first question here, a gentleman asked, John, if you were starting in the business today, what would you do? Basically, what would you do if you started all over again? And Savage says, I would start with people I knew, with friends, then from them build on referrals. I'd never make a cold call. I've never written a direct mail letter. I think that's foolish. Friends, then their referrals, and so on. It's a beautiful way to build a clientele. So John's a big believer, as you can tell, in working referral relationships. In fact, that's what he does completely. He hates cold calling. It's funny, in this book, this was his last book before he passed away. At one point in some of his books, he was kind of pretty easygoing about cold calling. If that's what works for you, great. But at this point in his life, near the end of it, he was dead set against cold calling. He believed in the power of referral generation, working your network, working your people around you, and getting in front of them and then making clients out of them, and then repeating the process of generating referrals. So this is a pretty interesting question that an agent asked of John. He asked, how do you handle questions concerning instability in the industry? And Savage answers, I've been asked probably 6 times so far this year about the stability of my company. This will happen more to a younger agent, I'm sure, and I think it's a matter of concern to you, but you can't worry about it. Let's face it, we'll all go under sometime. It's a question of when. Nothing lasts forever, which is what keeps me light on such a subject. And remember, never attack another company. You never strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. When you start comparing companies and products, you've gotten caught up in the most people were trained in sales poorly. Sell yourself. So in conclusion here, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you can see the value in Savage's books. There's a ton more in here that I barely discussed, if not didn't discuss at all. Savage is a great trainer. He brought a lot of valuable training to agents in this business for really nothing in exchange except purchasing his books and attending the seminars that he did. He's a treasure to the business. In this particular book, albeit it's a little bit hard to find, you can find it on Amazon. You can probably find it on eBay and some of these resale websites. It's an excellent book to get. It's a little bit more, I won't say esoteric. Savage talks about some bigger issues like the idea of teaching selling as an academic pursuit in universities and what he attempted to do to try to get universities to take on academic approaches to selling, which actually never panned out. He was pretty frustrated with that. And you just get his perspective on the sales process. I think this is perfect really for anybody that's brand new to the business. If you're looking for somebody to frame yourself after, this is a perfect role model. John came into this business, did not do very well for the first 8-9 years approximately, and then things changed where he changed his approach up. He built relationships to build clientele, and he really felt strongly about helping his clients out and staying in touch with them to continue to build those relationships. And from those relationships came many more opportunities and many more opportunities for clientele and repeating the process. And I think there's a lot to learn from that. As Ecclesiastes says, there's nothing new under the sun. This kind of approach will work just as well today as it did back then, back in the 70s and the 80s. And all you have to do is just implement some sort of approach that is focused on the clients, that's focused on making their lives better, because if you think about them first, your needs and wants and desires will be taken care of automatically. My name is Dave Duford at Final Expense Agent Mentor, where I help agents like you succeed in selling insurance and final expense insurance. If I can do anything for you, drop me a line. You can leave a comment below if you have any questions. And I'll put a link below if I can find a link on Amazon that will sell this book, because it's definitely one you want to pick up. So y'all take care. Thanks.